Aloha, Kahnawake Hironu, and welcome to another episode of Kahnawake Television, KTV, coming to you this time direct from Ottawa, Ontario, the nation's capital, where the Iroquois Caucus has been taking place for the past few days. Joe Delarone joins me. Joe, there's been a lot of talk in the news over the last few years about pipelines. We hear about Enbridge and we hear about the Trans-Canada pipeline. What's the latest, and how is it part of what they're talking about here at the caucus?
Well, what's really been interesting is that the Energy East pipeline has been discussed as they were having their discussions at the Iroquois Caucus. It turns out that the night before, the federal government made a big announcement that in terms of the Energy East pipeline, that consultation with the Native people has to be an absolute priority. And that actually changed some of the approach that the Iroquois Caucus is taking in terms of this. We spoke to three of the chiefs for three very different views.
Well, we had a letter drafted. It was pretty hard-hitting, if you will, and it was pointed out to us by Steve Thomas from Akwesasne that, the government of Canada came out with a position regarding the future of the pipelines, and that the consultation part that they were going to they were opening the door for further consultation, opening the door for, I guess the best way of describing it is meaningful consultation. Maybe I was right the first time. But in any event, it gave us time for second thought, and we are going to send out a more tempered response in terms of saying, okay, we will look towards whatever process is going to develop in the future, and we're looking at the full consultation, accommodation, participation, and let's find out where that takes us. We still are in opposition. There's no question about it, but we need to hear exactly now what they mean. I believe that they're hell-bent on going ahead with this project. But because of the opposition that's out there, key opposition across the country, they've decided, I guess it's best. Let's do a little more thinking on this. Let's talk to more people, So the quick turnaround is not a surprise, and in a sense, there's some looking forward to, being able to put forth things that they may not have heard before, and especially within the realm of the Iroquois communities and our rights and interests in those lands in which this pipeline would pass. So it's got to be clear that that's what we're dealing with. It's not an opposition to a pipeline, in just a pipeline and environmental issues. It's within our territories.
Well, Akwesasne has its own protocol when we discuss these issues. They're national issues. We offer our suggestions to the Iroquois Caucus. We have agreements in place to investigate what the issues are with this pipeline coming through our territory. We are not in the same position as other people. We would rather negotiate and sit down with these people and get a clear picture of how it's going to affect our territory and our people. Our major concern is always, just like all the other First Nations in this country, is the environment. And that is our number one priority. So that will never, ever change across this country. The news last night from the CBC came as very positive that they have reversed their confrontational, shove it down your throat type attitude to sit down with First Nations across this country. And as a group, we are eagerly waiting for what their process will be, especially in Akwesasne, Kahnawake, and people that are affected directly across this. Their taking of water to build these is a concern to us. They want permission to use the fresh water, and as we have no idea how this water is going to be returned, the dewatering process for their construction. So those are the issues that need to be answered, and once we have all of the answers, then the community will decide what direction we will take for Akwesasne. That's always been the case here.
Well, from what I understand is that what Mr. Trudeau announced yesterday is simply to buy some time for the industry. He's just, he's stretching the time when it comes to the consultation, and he appointed someone from the Crown side. Doesn't change a damn thing. The end result is the industry's interests are the ones that are being promoted and protected, not ours. And you'll see, mark my words, it's exactly what's going to happen at the end of this.
When you do get a chance to speak on the issue, because there will be consultations, and I imagine you will take the opportunity, what's the main thing that you want to say?
I want to tell them, first and foremost, that international law protects my right to say no if I don't like your project. And if you persist, then under international law, I can also hold you accountable. So who knows, we might see each other at The Hague someday.
Well, as you can see, there are obviously some differing opinions on how to go about things there. Moving along, they also spoke at the caucus and actually put out a press release when we arrived at the meeting. This is on the Thursday, January 28th. The Iroquois Caucus put on their website a statement regarding Bill C-51.
And C-51 is the Anti-Terrorism Act, which of course Native people feel very concerned about, because it actually makes it difficult to do something as simple as a protest. It could be misconstrued as acts of terrorism, and it's been very, very problematic. And the chiefs have been meeting on that. Like you said, Gene, a statement was put out. Chief Bobby Patton, who's been working with the caucus now for almost since he's been on council, we spoke to him about the latest developments.
Well, we had a busy week here at the Iroquois Caucus. There was many on our agenda that this has been about the most productive one for a long time, which is coming up now is the C-51 about the Anti-Terrorism Act. And, we're very opposed of it, because how can we be terrorists on our own land, which is false, and, and it's kind of misleading. We have a right to protect what's ours, and that's what our stand is. We sent it, we put a notice out to the governments, and now we got to just push it home. On this issue, well, we sent a notice, like I said, to the governments, and we're going to further discuss on what direction and how we're going to enforce it, and try to get more dialogue open, and how to get response to be to have some type of recognition about what our rights are as the Native people. The table here of the Iroquois Caucus has been insulted, because we have the right to defend our land. We have the right to defend our people. It's not just about the land where the reserves are on. We have all these traditional lands, our inherent rights, and we're the protectors. So being a protector and, protector of our people, we're marked as terrorists? Like, come on, that's enough now. How far do you want to go to keep knocking this Native people down?
Joe, Bill C-51, they're still discussing it in the caucus meetings right now. Any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, and it's ongoing, and like we were saying, there's so many people across the country are upset about this, and it's not only Native people, but it seems that Native people take it a lot more personally, because we were here first, and we're being put in this boat where, it's a scary thing here. You can be charged for just about anything, and that's what some of the people are saying when they read C-51. By the way, C-51 in its current incarnation is not exactly looked highly upon by the new Trudeau government. So again, things changing on the fly. If anything new happens, we'll keep you up to date.
In the news recently, of course, the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal came out with a decision. That'll be our next story. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the missing and murdered Native women and all of the other issues that have come through in the past, such as the residential schools, well, work has been done, and the fact that now the federal government has moved forward, well, a letter of congratulations is being sent on that. And also on another note, the tragedy in Laloche, Saskatchewan, we talked a bit about it on last week's program, and the Mohawk Council had a moment of silence before their council meeting on January the 25th. Well, they're sending a letter of condolence to that community as an Iroquois Caucus. We spoke to one of the chiefs, actually from Oneida of the Thames, and her name is Sherry Dockstader. We got some reaction from her.
Our hearts definitely go out to the community, and we feel for anything that happens across even Canada and US when we see these mass shootings that are going on. We certainly feel it doubly when it's children. So, we're certainly reaching out to those people, and our hearts, minds, and spirits are with them, our prayers, condolences. So we really feel for them. We just want them to know that there are people here thinking of you and here to help them and support them through this difficult time.
And that is Chief Sherry Dockstader from Oneida. Joe, the Iroquois Caucus has a very aggressive agenda. They've been here for a few days this week. And any other items that you'd like to add?
Chief Perry Bellegarde, the National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations, actually came in to welcome them. The caucus is actually being held at the Assembly of First Nations office, which is right there, right next to the Parliament building. So it's very close by. Some of the other things on the agenda were planned summits for things like education, economic development. There were several, language, and these still have to be finalized. It's a very aggressive and a very ambitious agenda. Hopefully they'll get to it, and as it's not over yet, hopefully on the next KTV, if there's anything else to report, we'll keep you up to date.
On last week's show, we spoke to Grand Chief Joe Norton via the telephone. He had just come out of a meeting with Quebec Premier Philip Couillard, and we spoke to him to get a sense of how the meeting went. He didn't even really have a chance to debrief with anyone before we caught him, so you had a chance to speak to him today on that.
Yeah, and we spoke very briefly, and I think on a better note, he appeared on K103's Party Line talk show to really give a better sense of the challenges of that meeting, because there were some successes, but also some big roadblocks, and we'll look at some of the highlights from the KTV Party Line of Friday the 29th.
Well, I will say part of it was not so much disappointing, but not unexpected in terms of the understanding of, I guess, the relationship or lack of it that we have in certain areas. To be more specific, in the area of, I'll start with major issue, it's taxation. Mm-hmm. And the Premier is very clear that Quebec citizens must abide by the law. Therefore, no matter where they go, they have to pay taxes, and somebody has to collect those taxes, and somebody has to remit it. Meaning, Kahnawake, and businesses here. And he was pretty adamant on that. But I made it clear. I said, look, we've had a long-standing position in Kahnawake. I said it goes back hundreds of years. It's not something new. It didn't just start, mm-hmm. in recent years. I said it's been long-standing. We've had battles over that. And basically that we do not collect taxes. We do not remit taxes. We are not going to be your taxpayers. I said, and the same message holds true with the federal government too. So, kind of a standoff there, if you will, at this point. But he did state that he wanted to further explore the possibilities of what we could do. And I said, that's fine. I said, but if you come in with this position, that the Quebecers have to pay taxes, and no matter where they go, what you consider the province of Quebec, he made it clear. He says, like, if we go to Europe, he says, we have people that go and work in Europe and elsewhere. They still have to pay provincial tax on their earnings and things of that nature. So I said, well, that's fine, but you're in Kahnawake, different circumstance here. We've held that position all along, right through, and that's not going to change. So that was part of the initial, what I would call exchange that we had. But prior to that, the first thing I wanted to talk about, was relationship. This whole idea of nation to nation, what you consider to be nation to nation, and what we consider to be nation to nation, And I did actually have a replica of the two-row. I laid that out on the table, and I said, and explained what that is. And I said, this is the original understanding we have between the French, between the British. I says, our ancestors, your ancestors, when they entered our territory, this is what we agreed to. We would not interfere with each other, so on and so forth, polishing the chain. And if we don't polish the chain, it rusts, it breaks, it means war, I says, we come close very close, and At times, I said even including in 1990. So it's not that far removed that things like that could happen. He said he liked the concept, he liked the idea. So I believe there is some manner of opening, perhaps an understanding, but I don't know how far that's going to go, because he's not really answerable or responsible for us. He's got his own constituents, and as we saw, he made a cabinet shuffle based on the fact that a lot of pressure was being brought to bear. And I'm not making any excuses for them. That's just their system.
Yeah.
But ours is consistently the same thing all the way through. So highway, we brought up Highway 30. We spoke about that. The bill that they had tabled in the House, 85. And to me, either they're ignoring the fact that this land, the scenery, all of that belongs to us, does not belong to them. It may be under somebody's management or administration at this point in time in the provincial government, but it is our territory. Otherwise, why would they have made a deal, to continue to complete Highway 30 expansion to Highway 15 and say we'll give you back land? If they didn't recognize that, then you don't make the deal.
Yeah.
So the response to that is well, when you settle with the federal government, you make your settlement with the federal government, then I guess whatever comes of that will come of it.